Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Almost Dropouts podcast. Today, I have my friend Vaibhav. Vaibhav, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Vaibhav. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I've been looking at doing this for like a few weeks now, but finally found the time.
Yeah, and so Vaibhav's also in Waterloo. He's in mechanical engineering, and right now, just recently, he was doing a co-op at Tesla. But because of coronavirus, right now he's back in Calgary. So, yeah, you know what? Let's talk about your experiences in Waterloo engineering. So that's usually how these podcasts start out. That's how I started with Sid and Viom and Sarthik. So let's just go with that. Let's talk about some of your in Waterloo, man. How was adjusting in first year? So to give some preface, by the way, Mike was 1 year younger than us, so we taught him a little bit of the ropes before he came in. But still, how was your first year in Waterloo?
So yeah, first year is honestly just more of an adjustment. Like for me anyway, it was just like living alone and stuff. Uh, so that took some time, not getting homesick and whatnot. uh, but apart from that, I felt like in terms of like academics and stuff, I went in prepared to like get hit with like a lot of work. So I guess
Yeah.
like it wasn't as bad as like what most people say where they like start first year and just get destroyed on all their exams and
Like
everything.
I still remember this guy messaged me the summer before he started Waterloo, and he's like, "Bro, what should I study? What calculus do?
Yeah,
Whatever."
I was straight up studying from like July or August and
Yeah,
school started in like September.
I'm like, bro, just enjoy your summer off, bro. You're not gonna get this again. Don't do this shit right now.
Yeah, honestly. Uh, yeah, I don't think I stopped preparing that early now, but whatever.
Yeah,
It was honestly, it was kind of worth it, I guess.
yeah. No, that's good, man. Like you said. So Vibo was pretty prepared. We gave him a heads up. Like a lot of us, me, Viom, Sarthik, Sid, Zulfkar, we came in sort of unprepared, like, how to go through that period. But luckily with him, we were able to sort of convey it. That adjustment period is always there. Like being homesick and stuff, being away from family, that's always a big adjustment. Um, and it takes time to get over, especially like living alone, like Vibe just said. But I know one of the things Vaibhav started early on, and he really enjoys right now, as well as his time at UOFT. I actually don't know the full acronym for UOFT. How about you explain UOFT, bro? Because
Yeah, so UOFT's a design team at the University of Waterloo. It stands for University of Waterloo Alternative Fuels Team. Um, the name itself is really outdated because the whole like way back when the team started, alternative fuels were actually used, but now we kind of just go like University of Waterloo Eco Car team. Eco
okay,
Car is like the competition the team competes in.
okay,
Yeah, I guess like on paper, I joined the team in my first semester, but again, like adjusting to school and stuff, I wasn't sure how much I was going to be able to commit. So
mm-hmm.
I just kind of went to like the weekly meetings and they had like NDAs and like some safety training and stuff like that to do.
You
I
get to do
that's
ed.
Yeah, because the team works so closely with GM, Intel, MathWorks. There's probably a bunch more companies
Oh
that I'm
shit!
forgetting.
All right,
Yeah,
all
I,
right,
I, I literally had to sign like 9 NDAs. It was kind of nuts.
bro. There's like one NDA for Tesla. Damn, you UOFT had more NDAs than fucking Tesla.
Yeah,
All
no,
right,
because like the competition is so unique in a way because it's like all these top companies come together and like just support university teams and try to get all the students to do like cool stuff on the car and try to find new technologies, recruit students to their own companies after like
okay,
that. I mean, that's kind of like the premise of any university competition, I'd say. So
yeah, yeah. Fair
yeah,
enough, fair enough.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
sorry. So yeah, first semester was just like I guess like going to the meetings and just getting some knowledge on the team, like what it does, what the competition is. I
mm-hmm.
wouldn't really say I got too involved. Um, but yeah, I guess I got like properly involved when my first co-op started, which was like my second semester of school, technically.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, that's. I mean, I know you really enjoyed your time, right? Like now you're a mechanical lead. Like Vibe was saying, he just started off like not really sure what he wants to do. Started going to design team meetings, and then he started really enjoying it. And it's a really good opportunity, like you just said. Like there's so many companies that UOF works with, and a lot of design teams on campuses work with. I know you guys even like have a resume bank and stuff. Like so, it's a really good experience. You're trying to get involved on campus, and
Yeah.
how's the competition?
Oh man, competition is pretty awesome. So it can get pretty stressful, but so I guess the way it works is it's overall it's a 4-year competition,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of every year they'll do like an annual competition, and it's kind of like milestone based, right? It's like, okay, in the first year you got to do this, in the second year you got to do this type of thing.
Okay.
But throughout the year, we also have like deliverables to submit. So these deliverables are straight up just like is like report writing. It's like yeah. So you do a bunch of work on the car, and then you gotta like write a report on it and submit it to the competition, and then man, it's kind of like school. Then they like mark it and like tell you how you rank and everything.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like it's a very much like that. Yeah, honestly, like I didn't, or even now, like I don't really know what I want to do like long term,
mhm,
but I didn't want that to be a reason for like me not putting in effort into a design team.
mhm.
So the reason I joined a design team was like just to get more exposure than like what school was giving me, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the reason I stuck around UOF is because I like genuinely enjoyed the work and the competition and the people.
Mm. I think the one thing design teams offer that our courses usually don't, and like easy ones for sure. I assume for Mech 1 2 is actually working with the group on an engineering project rather than like just doing it to do a small deliverable with a small group and then doing exams and stuff. This like actual thinking out of the box, doing stuff for the purpose of building something, building a greater thing. Um,
No, yeah, I totally agree. And like UOF, the way it's set up is honestly, UOF is kind of set up like imagine like a mini tech company, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so it's the only, to my knowledge, at Waterloo with like master students,
Okay.
and the master students are like the managers of the team. So we have like a project manager, engineering manager, and then if we have more master students, they often become like sub team leads and stuff.
Hmm.
So those are the guys that like kind of tell everyone what to do, but in like then there's also like undergrad leads, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're kind of in charge as an undergrad, but it's like you also kind of have superiority, but it's like you still have a lot of responsibility. I don't know, it's just like a really good balance where like you're not completely lost.
Yeah.
If you do get stuck, you have the support of like more experienced students,
Hmm.
but you are also very in charge, and you have the freedom to get like as creative as you want with like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Design or code or just overall system architecture. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's unique to that, especially, is like you just said, you have the ability to choose what you want to do more than you do in a job. Like with a job, you sort of come in, there's a project already like assigned for you to do, so you sort of have a sort of an indication of what field and what way you want to go into, and you have some choice you can definitely look into, but not as much as something like a design team. Like, uh, I assume so, and you can confirm if it's right or wrong. But like even if you're doing design and then one day you're like I think I like coding more, you could even switch off and try going and help at the coding side, right?
Yeah, 100%. The way we've always run the team is, let's say a new first year student comes in, and then they might say like whatever, right? They're in mechanical engineering, and I mean usually if they're in mechanical engineering, they want to end up doing like some type of design or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes it's like they might do a project with that, and then they would say, "Oh, let me try." some electrical project or software project, like the team doesn't care what degree you're in. The biggest thing to us is, well, one, that you actually like finish the tasks assigned to you, and second is what tasks do you actually care about, or what are you actually interested in?
Mm-hmm.
Because like design teams, more so than anything, is like a two-way street. It's like if you go in and help out the team, it's also the team's responsibility to give you, whether it be experience. Yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, so it's the team's responsibility to give you experience in return that you enjoy and find valuable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all. That's always how we run. Doesn't like no no like background or experience check.
Yeah. Yeah.
If a new member comes in, we give them what they want to do
Mm-hmm.
and provide whatever support they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm that. I think that's a great way, especially for first year students, to start building some experience. Because it's hard, man. In Waterloo, we do have co-ops from the beginning of 4 months. Uh, especially getting that first co-op can be tough. Uh, and not only getting it, we'll talk about getting jobs a little later. But not only getting it, but if you actually performing on the job when you start. I know some companies will set their expectations properly. That okay, yeah, this is a first year student. He might not really know what he's doing, but some of them, on the other hand, might be looking at other interns that they've hired in the past and setting expectations to that level. So sort of hitting the ground running and making sure that you aren't completely clueless at the beginning is a good way of ensuring a smooth process for that
Yeah,
first co-op. So
I mean, the way I've started to view my experience at design team is like, obviously, like it's cool to have the experience and writing it on my resume or whatever it be. So if you exclude the part about, or if you just don't worry about if the design team is going to help you get some, like, some job,
mhm.
uh, I will say that the design team experience has always made my co-ops easier, because there's always problems I face during my internships that I have dealt with similar problems on my design team. So it just makes it, regardless of like, I maybe I get one job, I don't get another job, or whatever the scenario, I always end up being like a better intern because of my experiences at my design team.
And I think that's all you can really ask from a design team, right? Like meeting new
Yeah.
friends, getting great experience, and helping you with your
No.
career.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so I think so. That's a pretty good overview of design teams. I know you did some hackathons as well in the past. How was that?
So hackathons for me were, um, well, it was a good experience, I guess, like a learning experience. How many? I did like three or four.
Okay.
But what I learned very quickly is hackathons are like very, very heavily focused on the software aspect,
Yeah.
which makes sense. But oftentimes, like they advertise themselves as hardware and software, but then the hardware is like pretty lacking, or they just don't have enough, or something like that comes
Mm-hmm.
up. The one I did enjoy was like a specific hardware hackathon. I think it was at Ryerson University. So a couple of my friends during my first co-op and I I I just found it on some website, on a Friday, right,
All
at
right.
like lunch or something like that.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, whatever, let me. And it was for like the next day,
Yeah.
so I just apply, right? I'm like, whatever, if I get in. And then luckily I hear back in a couple hours that I got in.
Really?
And then yeah, no, it was so random, because it said like the deadline passed, but it let me apply anyway, so I was like, it's worth a
Oh,
shot.
there you go, bro. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy. And then yeah, I tell a couple of my friends to apply, they apply, they get in.
Yeah.
And then man, it was crazy. Next morning we catch like the 4:30 a.m. Go bus from Waterloo going to like downtown, or well, like to
Square
Mississauga,
one,
and
and
then to
then
downtown. Yeah, and then to downtown Toronto, and then we walked to Ryerson. Oh my god, it was so early. And then what sucked was we got there at like, man, I don't know, like 7 or something.
yeah.
And then the hackathon started late, and we were already so dead. But I, yeah, I thought it was gonna be pretty bad when it started late and they seemed a bit disorganized. But once they like brought out the hardware and stuff, we started working.
Yeah.
So no, that one was really cool. And then we ended up winning
Oh
too,
shit. Okay.
which is good. But we were so tired that Sunday afternoon that we like left before the awards were announced because like we were like, yeah, we're probably not gonna win.
Yeah.
And then I got like a email or something on the way back that like we came first. I was like,
That must be awkward.
yeah, I was like, damn. And the thing is, they had like this whole hall set up for the winners and everything. It was kind of embarrassing.
Oh my god.
but but yeah, that was probably like the only hackathon that like I had a really good time at,
Yeah.
because it was like entirely hardware focused, and like everyone else that we were competing with was also all hardware.
Mm.
The other ones, like, yeah, I don't know. It really depends. It got a bit too software heavy for me,
Yeah.
and then
Dude,
I started getting bored.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you guys woke up at 4:30 a.m. Because the hackathons, you don't sleep all drinking Red Bull and like energy drinks all night and coding or hacking or like building whatever.
Yeah.
So like that's
No, that weekend was really bad because we didn't get a lot of sleep Friday because we left really early, and then
yeah.
I think Saturday night I only slept like 1 or 2 hours.
Jesus. All right.
And then like they didn't even have a bed set up, so I slept like head down on the lecture table.
Yeah.
Still better than cow hacks.
Yeah.
If you know what I.
So if just to give some context, actually, you know what? Sid has the story to tell, probably in the podcast. He'll tell the story about him and Devi, who was in the first episode, went to Cal Hacks. But I'll leave that story for a later episode. But yeah, no, that's good to hear, man. Hackathons and stuff are pretty interesting. I think the very concept of them.
So yeah, this is what I'll say. Like, if you've never done one, 100% do it. Because I know some people that like absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And then some people that hate them. It's like all over the place. I definitely think it's something worth trying. And the thing is, there's so many hackathons that if you just apply to a bunch of them, you'll definitely get into at least a few.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes there's a bunch in the US and they offer like travel
Reimbursement,
reimbursement. Some of them even like send buses to your university, right? So it's really not that hard to get into. And if you can get and like worst thing, even if like you hate the hackathon or whatever, you're probably gonna meet like new people, and you can go collect the merch from the sponsors.
The free stickers, that's a win, man. That's one of my books. And some big ones like just it's you might not get into some of the big ones. It's just starting off, but start with some of the smaller ones. And then as you start building your hackathon resume and your resume in general, you're more likely to get into the bigger ones. And I know some of the big ones are like Hack the North and Waterloo. We do that every year in September.
I guess like if any of your listeners are like pretty much have no experience or like first years or whatever the scenario, there's actually one in Waterloo that's meant for beginners. Okay. It's called Starter Hacks. Mm-hmm. I think it runs in like February or March or every year. Mm-hmm. But like Hack the North is definitely like the really big one. Mm-hmm. But Starter Hacks was the first one I did.
Okay.
And that one is like geared towards beginners, has a lot of good mentorship. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that one was my first one. It was pretty fun, actually. I had a few friends that I did it with, so
dope.
That was a good time.
Well, there you go, guys. So if you have no hackathons, that's a good way to start, Starter Hack. But otherwise, look for some local ones and just build your way up from. So, yeah, I think moving on now. So me and you have applied for a lot of jobs. in the past. And
Yeah, you can say
we can say,
that.
and like, if this is the first time listening to the podcast, if you've listened to the podcast before, you probably already know this now. Well, Waterloo does every 4 months we do co-op, so we keep switching from on school, then 4 months on job, etc., etc. So at the end of our degrees, we have 2 years experience based on this flipping thing. And as fun as it is, as good experience as it makes, it's also really stressful. A shit ton of job applications and a shit ton of but
Well, I wouldn't guarantee the high number of interviews.
that's
for
true.
everyone.
That's true. Yeah, interviews aren't guaranteed, but you're gonna apply to a lot of jobs. At least that one.
Yeah,
That one's guaranteed. But I know we've done a lot of interviews in the past, luckily, or maybe not luck if you if you want to say that. But let's talk about it. Like, you know what? How was the application when you first started off? And I'll share my experience with that. I want to hear yours first.
So, like for my very first co-op.
Yeah, let's talk about your first co-op and then transition to the one you got at Tesla.
That for yeah. So my first one was crazy. So it wasn't that fun, but the process wasn't that fun.
Yeah.
I'd say. So I mean, yeah, like main round, Waterloo has the 50 job limit. So obviously I maxed it out.
Yeah.
And then I think I got like 2 interviews. One of them was for a company in Calgary, which is the one I really wanted because I would be able to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was I think it was like Brampton or something like that. That one was a pretty good job too. So basically did the interviews. I didn't get the Calgary one, and the Brampton one like told me, or like told me, they gave me the offer, but they told me I'd be working in a really small town in Ontario.
I thought it was Brampton.
And then no. So it was supposed to be in Brampton, but during the interview they're like, "Oh, we have a different position in this really small town in the middle of nowhere." and then I was in the middle of the interview, and obviously I hadn't really given professional interviews before then.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went along with it, right? So I was like, yeah, okay, sounds good. And then I get the offer, and I'm like, damn, I got to make a decision. So that one was a gamble because for people who have gone through this process, it's really hard to get a job offer in the main round,
especially in
your first co-op. Yeah, in your first year, right? So I reject that job. The first offer I ever got, I rejected it.
All right, ballin',
at Waterloo.
straight ballin'.
Yeah. That was a risky move, but I couldn't imagine living in some small town, and the job might have been decent. I feel like the one I ended up with was better though.
Yeah.
But anyway, I go into continuous round. I'm applying like crazy. I think like all in all, I probably applied to like probably over like 100 jobs. Oh, maybe more, like close to like 200 jobs my first time around.
All right.
Yeah, because even continuous round, and then I started applying externally and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't getting too many interviews. I had one at some construction company that never led to anything. Like they didn't rank anyone.
Okay,
so that one was.
Nah, man, we don't want interns anymore. Y'all can go back.
Yeah, my interview was so bad they didn't even rank. Like just didn't see the results.
Yo, you did so bad, bro. Everybody else didn't get the job because of you. They're like, nah. I'm just joking.
Yeah. No, like pretty much though.
Yeah.
and then I remember, so final exams were gonna start, and then I think like a week before.
Yeah.
I remember this. So a week before finals, I got 2 interviews. One was for bets, which I'll go into detail in a second, and the other one was for, it was like some manufacturing company, but they were hiring co-ops to do like assembly work.
All right.
So it's not even engineering. So this is a trap for any mechanical students that are in like first year. Some companies will hire you just to stand on the assembly line and build their products. That's not engineering. That's just like how to get bored for 8 hours straight. So Yeah, I remember I did that interview and it was such a mistake. Man, don't even apply to these jobs.
Yeah.
It was such a mistake applying for this job because I ran out of like my not like don't rank or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When I rejected that first job.
Yeah.
So I could not get this offer. Like I didn't want it. So I mean, I did the interview. It was like a phone interview, and then like basically at the end, I just told them like, yeah, I don't want this job. Please don't rank me. Yeah, that would.
But that's the
Yeah,
thing with
that.
Waterloo system. Like if they did rank you, so I know if you
Yeah, then I'd be. Well, no, it's better now,
yeah
right? Because now they have three
yeah
non-ranks.
yeah
But yeah, back in the day, yeah, I would be trapped into that co-op.
yeah yeah no that's yeah I if you're not in Waterloo, this probably makes no sense. But just take some of the nuggets out with the job interviews and applications. If you are in Waterloo, then or if you are in Waterloo or you're coming into Waterloo, then you know all about this. Or if you're coming in, then you should know all about this pretty soon. But yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, continue.
yeah, no. And then anyway, so luckily that job didn't rank me, so I was in the
Yeah.
clear. And then I only had one interview and basically like a last hope of getting a job because it was like almost final exams time, and then getting a job when the co-op term already started is like pretty difficult to
Yeah.
do. Um, so anyway, I think what I ended up doing. So yeah, I had bets.
Hmm.
Bets is essentially like a it's like a co-op program run by the University of Waterloo.
Hmm.
It's specifically meant for first time co-ops and Waterloo students who are in some type of engineering program, like well, any engineering program really.
Hmm.
Um, and the way it works is, say, like I mean, the co-op will be 4 months long, but the co-op is split up into three 5 week rotations. So within these three 5 week rotations, you have the opportunity to work for three different local startup companies in the Waterloo Kitchener area,
Hmm.
or they also have bets based in Toronto. So you can either pick if you want to be in Kitchener Waterloo or if you want to be in Toronto, basically,
Hmm.
right? So I guess those were my choices, and then I think I ended up I applied for like the Kitchener Waterloo one
Hmm.
because I mean I don't have family in Toronto or anything, which a lot of people do, so that's why that made a lot more sense for some people.
Hmm.
But anyway, I go into the interview. Um, it was it was pretty straightforward, honestly. They they went like line after line on my on my like first year resume with like nothing on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but you just try to explain everything,
Yeah.
and then
Through
uh
line, just one line, because that's all our resumes
no,
had in first year.
yeah, no, actually though, no, but yeah, it was just a resume overview,
Yeah.
and then one important thing they asked is like, imagine you're like working on a project for, let's say you're working on it for like 2 months, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden it just gets scrapped, just like that.
I
How would you feel? How would you react,
yeah.
right? And the reason they're asking that is because these are startup companies. They scrap projects like all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Startups have to move really fast, so getting your work scrapped is not that surprising.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I just answered like I would just. I guess the biggest thing is you just want to tell them that. Well, unless if you don't feel this way, but the way I thought about it is, it sucks that it got scrapped, but essentially, like all the learning you do or all the learning I did while working on this project isn't just gone, right?
Yeah.
Just because the project didn't get put to use or got scrapped doesn't mean I didn't get valuable skills and knowledge out of it.
Hmm.
And I think that's just important in like any co-op, but especially when you're working for a startup that's as fast as it can be.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's pretty good advice, man. And you come a long way now, so let's talk about that. You started off on not getting a job, but luckily getting the bets program, which was a great option. Just as a PSA, great option for first years. 100% recommend it. You might take an L a little bit on the salary, but the experience you're going to get is great. But anyway, so you go from that to now, your most recent co-op, you were working at Tesla. Um, And so before we talk about your time at Tesla and both our times at Tesla, let's talk about what do you think you've learned? What do you think you learned and gained along the way to get a point that you interviewed and got the job for Tesla?
So I guess along the way, like my previous 3 internships before I ended up working at Tesla, they were slightly different, honestly, and I was just able to like pick up on so much stuff from all of them.
Yeah.
So like my first co-op like Bets, and then my second one was at Santec Labs. Uh, those were all like like small startups and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those like really taught me how to like work at like a fast pace and how to prototype and like just a lot of stuff like that. And I did like a bunch of different projects. I did Arduino related projects. I obviously did like mechanical design, lots of like 3D printing, laser cuttings. Like it was just very like prototype heavy, which was super fun. And
Mm-hmm.
then my third co-op was at ATS Automation. That it was like the first like proper big company I worked for. There I kind of learned um, a little bit of the corporate lifestyle, which I don't want. Like Tesla isn't corporate, but it's more corporate than like a
A
seven-person
startup.
startup. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So even like some even stuff that oftentimes you feel like is so useless is like the most important things that help you
Mm-hmm.
along the way. No, I, I just took the biggest thing I did throughout all my previous co-ops was no matter like what the task or like what the work culture or work environment, whatever it be, I just tried to take what I learned and actually think about how this can make me a better engineer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's like small stuff, right? Like writing professional emails or like writing like a report on something, making Excel sheets, uh, so, like all that stuff. Well, that's typically like the type of stuff that sounds boring to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, like if you do it like if that's all you do 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, it can get boring. But that stuff is still so valuable
Mm-hmm.
um, to, becoming like an overall just better engineer, I guess.
Yeah, I think like even if it's not completely related to what you want to do in the future, just getting work experience is honestly like it's I
Yeah,
it's honestly a really big
no,
thing.
that there's no such thing as bad experience.
Yeah, exactly. Like just the fact that you have to interact with people in the work environment, know how to give deliverables on time or like interact.
Yeah,
It's a big deal. It's a big deal what work experience gives you.
no, for
Um,
sure. And then I guess like one of the other things that that I did was I purposely took co-ops in Waterloo for
mhm.
my first three. Um, so in the odd chance that my co-op I felt like wasn't giving me enough learning uh, experience as I wanted, I always did design team in parallel
Yeah.
with my co-op. So I was kind of like doubling down on the learning, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were like super super busy co-op terms with like work and design team. But I definitely did like the most learning during that time, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think, you know, at the time I was like, bro, get out of Waterloo, have a good time somewhere else. But I definitely think that was the right decision where you were able to capitalize regardless. Whether it was in your co-op term or going extra ham on the design team, you were able to get that experience and keep building up your resume to the point
Right.
you got your Tesla interview. So, let's talk about the Tesla interview now. Well, how did without breaking the NDA for the interview and stuff, but I guess more generic stuff. What are some things that what was some experience you think was highlighted in the interview, and what do you think they thought was valuable to them as a company that got you hired for the position? And actually, you want to give a little bit of an overview of the position you had too, so then it sort of relates back to that.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So the position I did at Tesla was um, it was like a vehicle test engineering intern. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So I was mostly working with like seats and interiors and like some thermal system stuff. Um, so I guess that's the team I interviewed for. The interview itself wasn't too bad, but the job itself required you to be more than just like your average mechanical engineer, because so basically the way the job works is the, the test engineers at Tesla are really good at like everything. And no,
Nice.
I like literally mean everything. So uh, they can obviously like most of them have mechanical background, so obviously they can do like mechanical design. A lot of them are really good at software because uh, automating a lot of the tests deals with coding firmware within like with and communicating with different components that you want to test. Like let's say I don't know, you want to do like cycling of some stuff, so some part, and so you'll write like a script for it. So
Hmm.
they were really good at that. They were really good at like data analysis, obviously,
Hmm.
to read all whatever amount of data they had. A lot of them had strong electrical backgrounds to work with different harnesses for like the different components you'd have to test,
Hmm.
and work with like linear actuators, for example, to like uh, I don't know, apply force to some component to see if it breaks,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the job itself is like very like you just need to be like a really good overall engineer, basically. So
Hmm.
I think that the thing that helped me the most was having have more than just a mechanical background.
Hmm.
Like all the projects, like even the hackathons, honestly, like the hackathons I did where I got like hardware knowledge, or the various projects I did with my design team that were like electrical focused or software focused. Um, all like it felt like if any one piece of experience was missing from my like resume, let's say,
Hmm.
I wasn't qualified for the job. I needed everything I'd done in the last 2 years of school basically to get that job.
Right.
And that might not that might not easily be portrayed through the how the interview actually went, because the interview itself was, I would say, it was like pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It was more so like resume stuff, but my hiring manager, what she was looking for was mostly just seeing like what type of work I'd done, and
Yeah.
so it was mostly talk about like experience, like a little bit about like my previous internships, and like a
Yeah.
heavy focus on my design team. Um,
Hmm.
so well, one like part, I was part of like an automotive design team, which is already like a huge plus for a company like Tesla.
Oh,
Um,
it's automotive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, which makes cars, and
Yeah.
then uh,
If you didn't know.
yeah, and then because I like obviously I was still like my main skill, I guess, would still be like mechanical design, but the
Yeah.
fact that I did have exposure to like coding and like data analysis and stuff like that outside of like just doing a course on it at school uh,
Hmm.
was really key. Like having concrete projects that I could talk about
Yeah.
is what made the difference. Because
Hmm.
like, man, literally everyone can like go to school and like do the courses and get the grades. Okay, maybe not
Yeah.
like get like insane grades. I don't
All
want
right,
to say
buddy.
that.
All
I don't want to say
right.
that, but like
Yeah.
everyone does the same courses, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're
For
not
sure.
gonna stand out by like
What's your
showing
unique?
off
What's your
some
unique
like
experience?
project that everyone else also did. You
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
other stuff. So anyway, yeah, for me it was like all that other stuff that really added
Hmm.
up. But
And I
yeah,
think one thing that you like was really interesting that you said was the interview seemed pretty straightforward, but she was really looking through all your experience.
yeah,
And I think one thing like with these interviews, like personally, and I think just hearing you talk about it as well, is that these guys are able to see through the bullshit, especially like if they are not HR, they're more of the actual engineering. They can tell if you know what you're talking about or not because that's what
right,
they do on a daily basis.
yeah,
Um,
100%. Like This interview was definitely not like one of those where I got like random technical questions where I had to like memorize stuff or anything like that. It was very
Mhm.
much like, okay, this is your resume. What can you do? And obviously, I got asked questions about my projects, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
be ready to answer those questions. Because if you don't know your project well enough, they'll know that like you might well yeah
You might
they'll
just put
kind
it on.
yeah exactly. So
Yeah.
you need to prove to them that you know what you were doing and that you can
Yeah.
justify your actions, I guess.
And I think that's like one key thing in all these interviews with the high level companies, or like a lot of companies that don't only talk about what you achieved, talk about what you thought about what you were doing at the time, what the process was,
Yeah,
because it's
100%.
not only about what you were able to accomplish; it's about how you accomplished it and how you approached it. Um,
Yeah.
because the
No, I
approach to problems is how what they look at. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
I think like obviously I'm sure we've all heard of companies that'll ask like trick questions or questions you have to like study for and all of that stuff, right?
Mm,
And yeah, there are a lot of companies that do that, and you will have to like study to some extent. But
mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is like you need to know your experience more than your interviewer, because your interviewer is most likely going to be smarter than you are, like
Yeah,
because like they're more experienced, and oftentimes they're able to catch up on like get a grip of what your project is really quick.
yeah,
And if they're able to explain it to you better than you're able to explain it to them, the interview's over.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. That like, and I know some people would be like, "What do you mean? Like, would you know your project more?" But what he's trying to say, like, the fundamental ways you're solving it. If you cannot explain that, and they're fundamental to the way you approach the problem and made the project, and they understand that, it's over because they know that you don't know.
Yeah, it's like it seems like the most simple things oftentimes. It's like you design this like this instead of this? Why did your code use this logic instead of this logic?
Yeah,
Why does your schematic have this component and not this component? Right? Like it's all stuff that you probably have answers for,
yeah,
but if you don't think about it beforehand, you're probably gonna get cooked in the interview.
yeah, exactly. And like I said before, it's a process, right? Like even if they don't talk about experience, it's asking you questions about technical questions as well, which they didn't in this case. But I'm saying for other interviews, like
Well, okay, like they weren't technical questions as in like, oh, like how do you calculate the stress of this, right?
yeah,
But it was like technical questions about like my project
right.
or my projects. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I think like the key element for both of those, regardless, is just your process of approaching it, not necessarily
yeah,
just the answer. Um,
yeah.
and I think that's a really key thing to take away from those interviews with these companies. So, yeah, no, that thanks for that overview, man. To help people. And you know what? Let's talk about Tesla as a company now. We both have like 2 to 3 months of experience now at Tesla. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, and I'll share mine. So, what do you think about Tesla as a company without NDA, of course?
So I think it's a really interesting place to work.
Mhm.
I found the people there highly motivated, to like
Yeah,
really motivated,
yeah,
uh, and yeah, I don't know. It was just like a really cool company to work. Um, it was it was as you know what I like it's a tech company that just happens to make cars, but
hmm
and I don't know, it's just treated like that. Like the work culture is like very casual. Um, your work is heavily judged on like the final product. Uh, like in my case, for example, I mean, like sure I had to work long hours sometimes and whatnot, but essentially my I was told it's like no one cared how long I worked there. They
hmm
just wanted like the results. You're purely judged on your results.
yeah,
Um, so I really liked that it was like results oriented.
yeah,
And then the people I worked with were also really awesome. Like I basically got support whenever I needed it, and
hmm
yeah, it just made it that much more fun.
yeah. I think that's been my experience too. Like, I think Tesla isn't a company where they're going to be like, oh, you have to stay from 9 to 5. It's like it's more of a
Yeah,
company where it's like you put in whatever hours you need to in order to get things done. Because at the end of the day, that's what the company is moving so fast that they just need things done at the end of the day. They cannot worry about you coming in 9 to 5 or whatever. Um,
exactly. Yeah.
and I think that's one of the benefits of the company. And from my experiences, like the reason I really really enjoyed Tesla is because for the first time, I think I'm working at a company where I'm actually invested in the product succeeding. Like I've had fun at my old companies as well. Don't get me wrong with the work and the culture and everything, but at the same time, I've never as invested in the product I was working on than I am at Tesla because honestly,
Yeah, I
Model S is like car. Those cars are really sick.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear that. Honestly, like going into it, I was okay. Don't like obviously I know Tesla makes dope cars and
Yeah,
whatnot. But I honestly felt like while I was working there, I ended up getting more invested.
of
And
course.
then
Yeah,
especially when that stock rally was happening, I just saw like everyone around me getting super hyped.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they're like, yo, it's at 700, it's at 800.
that
Yeah.
was those were times to remember. I know the stock just died because of
I
Corona, but
literally own zero Tesla stock and I wanted the price to rise.
and that's the thing. Like, you know what? The one thing about the company culture that really distinguishes it over from all of my other co-ops is just how exciting it really is, and how excited everybody is about the company as well. And I think that goes a really long way when your employees are as excited as your leadership with what's coming out. That can do wonders for any company. For the morale of your employees, for the speed things are
So
done.
I also feel like there's an aspect to it where like so the engineers or well like anyone at Tesla does work really hard, and the thing is like Tesla is trying to do so much different stuff
Mm-hmm.
that there's pretty much no time left to do like boring or unimportant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like every project or every task you get is like interesting and high priority most of the time.
Yeah.
And like I have never gotten a task where it was like, oh yeah, just like keep this as a background. It's like, no, I need this done.
Mm-hmm.
So it kept me sharp because I knew that like all the work that was assigned to me, like just it had to get done, and I knew exactly why it was important to get
Yeah.
it done.
Yeah, exactly. And that shifting priorities thing is a big thing because like the company is always trying to innovate, and one day your project might be this and the next day boom, you have to start working on something else completely.
Exactly.
Um
Yeah.
and that can be nerve-wracking, no doubt, but that's also the fun part too. Like you come into work and you don't know, like you do know what you're working on, but sometimes like bang, it can just shift like that. And having to deal with that, but also like learn from it and be able to adapt from it. That's actually it's a lot of fun. And that's another big plus side of working at the company that I found.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about specifics. What's Without violating your NDA, what's the most exciting thing from Tesla in your opinion?
Like during my time there, or just overall,
Just
or
overall.
uh, honestly, I'm pretty excited about like some of the cars coming out later on. Like, I mean, the Roadster specs look nuts,
Yeah.
uh, and the Cybertruck looks pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Um, I'm honestly just interested to see um, how the company does, how what cars they make and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of spectating as a fan at this point, but uh,
Yeah.
I know the whole thing. It it isn't a company that I feel like it's almost as if that company has to succeed for the better of the world almost. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a bit extreme, but you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like everything they're working on is like pretty important,
Hmm.
um, and therefore it's like their success is a good thing for everyone.
Hmm. And I think what's really interesting about it, like, so we just saw the shift that it electric vehicles. And like I'm not trying to gas the company. Like other vehicle manufacturers started dismissing electric vehicles until Tesla entered the space. And I think one of the biggest reasons we are where we're at with the electric vehicle shift is because of Tesla. And for me, with that same mindset, one of the most exciting products is our energy products, actually, which is definitely isn't the most flashy products, but I think it'll be really interesting to see how it shifts the future in that domain as well, because energy is
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
yeah. So you're saying
No, it's crazy how like the solar panels side of it
yeah,
like seems like it's completely different, but it's kind of weird how well tied it is
yeah,
to like the vehicle and the supercharging and stuff like that.
hmm
Um, yeah, I think like the solar tech that Tesla's working on is honestly might be I don't know, but might end up being more successful than like the vehicles.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
just because it, like if you're living in a sunny area, why wouldn't you have solar panels
yeah,
that don't look ugly? You know?
yeah. No, exactly, and that's the thing. Like, I think it represents a bit because energy hasn't really changed in a while, right? Like, of course, new forms of energy have come out. Don't get me wrong, but outside of wind, dam, hydro, oil, natural gas, like outside of those main sources, it really hasn't shifted that much. The way we get our electricity, like one area's electricity, the way they get it hasn't shifted. But I think this really represents an interesting concept where it's you know, uh, where we're seeing more individuals gain control of their energy rather than just a collective grid. It'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and I think Tesla is definitely a really interesting company, and I'm definitely really excited to be there. And we'll see what the future holds. Uh, yeah, cool. You know what? Let's talk about a little bit more current events now. Shifting a little from Tesla. Uh, so as everybody knows right now, we're in coronavirus season, so everything's shut down. We're all in, quarantine or self isolation, not quarantine. We're all in self isolation, working from home wherever we can, and of course, some people have to go to work, but whoever can stay at home is staying at home. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with supply chains during this time and what the future of tech and working in tech becomes because of coronavirus. What I mean by that is coronavirus really offered the biggest experiment for working from home like ever. And I honestly believe if companies are smart after this, they'll actually start thinking about reducing their overhead costs in their offices and shifting people to full remote now. Of course, some jobs you can't, like you're saying with vehicle test engineering. It's pretty hard to go completely remote with that.
Yeah, it's not possible to
But
go full remote. Yeah,
especially with like software, especially software companies, like if you start looking at the overhead costs of maintaining that building and having people come into work versus them working at home, this is a great time to start reevaluating that and thinking about shifting people to working remote. So I guess like the next stage we can talk about for our discussion is what do you think will be the overall impact of coronavirus in the tech industry?
so yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up. Because yeah, honestly, I'm kind of curious to see what type of data these companies come up with, right? Because I'm sure like I don't think it'll be as simple as like, oh, like they work from home, so let's just make this permanent.
Yeah,
I think there has to be like some, well, it either has to be like equal productivity or like higher
that's
productivity
true. Yeah, there has to
for
be an
them to
evaluation
transition.
process.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like I don't know. I am still a bit old school, so it's like I still believe going to the office and like doing work there
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like that's just like the type of jobs I've always had,
Yeah,
where like working remotely makes no sense.
that's true.
Um, but you know what? I kind of see this as, I don't know about full remote, but you know, like how a lot of companies have those like remote desk setups where it's like you don't have an assigned desk, you kind of just like sit wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
In the office, they there could be a transition where they end up doing like partial work from home. That's kind of like when this whole COVID-19 situation started.
Hmm.
That was like some of the initial steps we were given. It's like, okay, like don't come to work if you don't need to come to work. Only come if like you have to do something here, type of thing, right?
Yeah,
I could see that being implemented where it's like certain tasks can be done at the office, but
yeah.
maybe like more encouragement is posted to employees to like work from home,
Hmm.
and then that way like they could like reduce office size rather than just getting rid of them, you know.
Hmm.
I could see that as being like a reasonable medium rather than going full remote.
So it's interesting you bring that up because actually a lot of consulting firms right now have a similar thing in practice because so many of their consultants are going to different firms to consult.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
They actually don't have, a lot of them are missing assigned seating now. So when you come into the office, you sit wherever you want. But if you're not in the office, then of course you do your work wherever you are. And I think it'll be interesting, like you're saying. I think you'll start to see that not only be in the consulting world, but be more of a normal thing in the tech world as well. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see for sure. Um,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah, I am pretty interested in seeing what actually comes out of this
yeah, I mean,
whole thing in terms of what companies find. I remember reading something where like I think it was Microsoft in one of their like Asia offices for like a month or something just gave people like Friday off,
yeah,
like every Friday off,
yeah,
and then like productivity of the entire office rose, and it was just like an interesting study. It's like could a 4 day work week be better than a 5 day work week type of thing, right?
yeah.
Um,
I,
so it's like this, but like obviously this has a much larger downside with
mhm.
how many people are being infected and everything.
But I think but I think it's interesting you bring that up. Like, this is a little side note, but I think we see in a lot of different companies right now where they're starting to move more into what software companies have been doing for a while, which is not necessarily forcing work onto people, but trying to make more work more of a flexible type of thing. And I think companies are seeing increased productivity in doing that. Like, because work from home wasn't even an option, like 10, 15 years ago in most companies. It's more of a recent thing that was implemented because of tech companies starting to implement. So
I think like, well, this is like really far out, but if somehow like significantly more positions open up where like fully remote work is possible,
yeah,
it would also I think might have an impact on like housing, right? Because California is really expensive to live in, and there's a lot of tech companies there. If
yeah,
you can work for one of those and make like the high salary, but not have to pay California housing,
yeah,
that seems like it's a pretty good deal, right? So
yeah,
I could see that being a thing where it's where people still work for these tech companies in Silicon Valley, but live somewhere far more affordable.
yeah,
Um, you know,
yeah. Actually,
yeah, that actually sounds really nice. But
no, that sounds like that's. It's really interesting you bring that up because I know a lot of tech companies are moving outside of California and building offices elsewhere. Like, I know Apple's building a huge one in Austin, Texas right now.
yeah,
Just to incentivize people to move there because Austin has such less housing costs and taxes and stuff. But like you're saying, like maybe the future is not necessarily just moving headquarters, but moving more positions to remote work, and then letting people work from wherever they want to,
wherever they want, exactly.
and then incentivizing that like that. Incentivizing working like that.
Yeah,
That could be the future.
you know it's crazy though. I feel like again, like this is kind of like a perfect time where companies can experiment with this. But maybe the technology where on how we do meetings, right?
Mm.
That can be improved as well right now. Because like, I mean, I was told not to do in-person meeting like like over a month ago, basically.
Yeah.
I was told a while ago that like no more in-person meetings, right?
Yeah.
So we transitioned to like the like Zoom, basically.
Yeah.
That's what the meetings are done on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like Zoom itself, like it's pretty good. I heard the stock for Zoom like shot up because everyone's using it now.
Dude, no. The funniest thing with the stock for Zoom, sorry, quick side note, is that there's two companies. One
Oh,
is
I heard
ZM
about this. Yeah.
and one is ZOOM. So ZM is Zoom Technologies, which is the actual like, video chatting thing, like the meeting one. But Zoom Technologies, Zoom like ZOOM is something completely else, or vice versa. I don't remember the exact specifics, but people were buying the other company's stock thinking it was a Zoom web conferencing, and their stock shot off the roof. So the SEC had to actually stop trading for that
Yeah.
company, so people weren't like buying their stock.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I just looked it up. Zoom, like the proper Zoom stock went
yeah,
up like, man, I don't even know, like 30% or something. Like, oh my
yeah,
God, 50% at one point. Like, yeah, it just went nuts.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, sorry, you're.
But yeah, anyway, so it's like for stuff like that, I feel maybe these features exist and like I just haven't used them or something, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but kind of like a smart board almost, where like you can like write on the screen, but then everyone in the meeting could see it. Honestly, these things might already exist, and I just don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but I could see technology, or I could see tools being created to make remote work easier.
Hmm.
Uh, whether it be like making meetings easier, or I don't know, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like like you're saying, web conferencing might just be the getting of the iceberg. But if more people start working remote, there's definitely other things we haven't thought about right now that could be useful for those remote workers. And some companies might just start popping up because of that. I know Microsoft stock's gone easy because so many people are buying Microsoft Teams right now, or Microsoft 365, which comes to Microsoft Teams right now to
Yeah,
facilitate
yeah,
meetings. So definitely, there's like a big market for it. And it'll be interesting to see what pops out because of that.
yeah. Like, yeah, no, I agree.
And I think,
Even for like jobs, I feel like firmware developers, obviously, like you need the hardware to work on
yeah,
it, but you could set up like and I think some companies probably already do it, but it's set up some type of hardware.
like
I don't know,
like
emulator,
simulator.
something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, simulator, right? And then like write firmware to that
Mm-hmm.
maybe, just to see how it reacts. But I feel like that's something like every company would have to do on their own for their own products. But
Mm-hmm.
something worth looking at, I
I
guess.
think it would be really interesting to see the data of how productivity is affected, though, because I don't know, I'd be really
Yeah,
interested to see that. But let's see. And I think one of the other big impacts with coronavirus right now is the possible recession coming up. Right now, I like if you're graduating the next 1 or 2 years, I think that's one of the biggest things on your mind is will I be able to get a job after that? Because right now the markets seem like we're going towards it. I mean, right now the markets are going up. I don't know how, but like I do definitely believe in the next like for the next 1 or 2 years we'll be in a recession. Um, and so I was just it's going to be interesting to see where the tech industry and tech companies go with this recession because supply chains are affected in this case. It's not only so supply chains and demand are affected in this case. So it's not only supply; it's that people are not going to be buying as much stuff going forward for a while. So to get out of the recession will take a
yeah,
while.
yeah. I guess I mean the government, the Canadian and the U.S. government are like trying to soften the blow, right?
Yeah,
By like offering people
like stimulus
like
package.
helping. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like helping people out financially, however they can, type of thing.
Hmm.
But
But I mean,
yeah, I'm not sure how the job market's gonna look because the thing is like the market's been so good for like a while
we were
now.
due for a recession. Coronavirus is just like a sort of a match, but like the gasoline was sitting there.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
um,
But no, yeah, I'm not really sure. Because I'm even worried about like internships and stuff. It's
oh
like
yeah,
how many companies are gonna hire. I know a lot of companies are canceling internships right now because remote work isn't possible
Mhm.
and like traveling isn't too safe right now. So it's kind of a mess right now.
Yeah.
But
And I think the problem is the fundamental issue is going to be like because of all the stuff that's happened recently, it's getting people to gain that consumer confidence in buying stuff again. That's going to be really hard as well because like I can teach personally, I'm not going to spring for the next iPhone after this stuff. Like if I might be without a job and my parents' job security might be like at risk because of all this recession stuff. Because of the recession, I'm not gonna spring for an iPhone or like a used Tesla or like whatever, like a new laptop or
I
anything, right?
used Tesla.
Or,
Yeah.
I do or okay, whatever. Hey, let me plug in
Yeah,
my work a little bit. um,
yeah.
but no, but I'm being serious. Like it's gonna take a while for people to want to buy things again and get to that level that we were before because people were spending mad money before coronavirus. Um, and so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay, I agree. It can get bad, but also I feel like a lot of banks are allowing people to defer credit card bills and mortgage payments and student loans. So maybe it won't be that bad. But yeah, I totally get the point,
Yeah,
right? But yeah, I don't know. This is like the first time where I'm like old enough to actually kind of get impacted by a recession
yeah,
of sorts. So I don't know if this type of stuff is usually done by the government when like a recession hits.
yeah.
But
They do usually give a
yeah, because
bailout, but not.
right,
Yeah,
right,
it's
yeah,
no, it's gonna be actually. I was reading an article today, and I think so. One, I'll give a little preface. So if you're into the tech industry, I don't think you're definitely like you should be the least worried out of the other industry because tech companies have so much cash on them right now that they're strapped. Like they'll be fine for years. Like especially compared to the
yeah.
rest
I
of the
don't know.
industry.
Tech industry will probably be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have so much cash and they'll be fine. But because of that, because as I was reading this, because tech industries have so much, this tech industry has so much cash. In the next year or two, people are talking about how like the tech industry is going to become the biggest part of the global economy, like at least the U.S. economy, because all the other industries have taken so much of an L with coronavirus, um, that the tech industry is going to be the only one to really survive, like to survive better than the rest. Like it'll be better than the industries, and because of that, the mega corporations we have right now are only going to get stronger as we keep going. And so it'll be interesting to see like the influence that these companies have is already but beyond this recession, they will have even more influence. So
Yeah, I feel like the tech industry is like best suited to still be productive because of like the remote
yeah,
work life that we talked
mm-hmm.
about.
And that's
It's
yeah,
yeah, a lot of software companies are set up really well to take the
oh
transition.
yeah,
And I know like people in the software industry that will work from home like from like February,
yeah,
while like most of us got notice in like March and stuff.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not that surprising if that does happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think let's transition to something a little more lighter, something more different. So Vaibhav and me are big basketball fans. We love the NBA. Uh, and we're very sad that right now, because of coronavirus, the NBA is gone. To get some background, Vibe was a big Warriors fan. He's been on the Warriors bandwagon since guess which year, 2016.
I don't want to hear it.
So and I'm a big Raptors fan. Uh, not from 2019. No, I was a big Raptors fan from
Yeah.
2016. I went through LeBronto. I'm okay, guys. I'm part of this.
Oh my
If you
god.
beat through LeBronto, you can't be a bandwagoner. That was painful. Um, but I think beyond the tech world, it's interesting to see the impact that on the sports world because of coronavirus, and like starting off with the NBA in general. I know they were already talking about a shortened season, And I think this might be like just in general, not just this season, but in general, moving it from 82 games to 67 games. And I think this might be the perfect for them to start testing that out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was thinking about that. So this season's definitely going to be
Yeah.
short. Although I think I heard probably on like First Take Stephen A.
Yo,
Smith.
shout out Stephen A.
Yes, shout out. But it was like they need to play 70 regular season games for all the local, for all the teams to get their local TV revenue,
Okay.
and then they can like go into playoffs, do whatever they
Yeah.
want, right? So for a fact this season's going to be shortened, and the next season has to also be like it has to start late, because if you start early, like at the same time, you're going to risk injury to all these players, right? And that's just like stupid. So I think it's a very good time to try less games, maybe depending on like when the NBA actually comes back or if it comes back this
Yeah.
season. Next season they could try like less games but spreading it out, something like that. Because with like the NFL, for example, the regular season is only 16 games. Like they don't like the teams don't even get to play every other team in the league. It's like because I think there's like 32 teams or something.
Okay.
But each game in the NFL is therefore so valuable. I feel like, especially recently, regular season the NBA has just become a joke.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's like Houston can win as many games as they want. They're not going to win the chip.
Yeah, you heard it here first. This guy's a certified Russ hater. If you want to comment in the comments, whoever's a Russ fan, you can add him.
Yeah, but I feel like lowering the amount of games will make the regular season more interesting.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it'll increase like ticket prices, so I would end up going to less NBA games. But
yeah, I think
it'll make it more entertaining in general.
I think Lakers since 2016 and the Warriors won 73 and 9 games, and then old Bron showed them in the finals.
But Bron's old.
Yo, washed king? Hell no. but ever since then, I think that would really put the regular season in context for a lot of players, where they're like, yo, it doesn't even matter. Like, regular season doesn't matter at all with the playoffs, because look the.
Nah, I wouldn't say
Come
that.
on, bro. Yo.
I would say it was when the Raptors were first in the East twice and still got swept.
Yo, it's okay, man. It was part of the growing process, all right? We needed that wake-up call so we could trade for Kawhi and win the chip. It doesn't matter.
Oh, my God.
We got our ring, okay? That matters. But, okay, you know what? Fair. Yeah, I agree. What defined it? Like, all 73 games of Raptors the first seed and getting swept by LeBron. That's what really started pushing the importance being less. And I think it is a good time to implement it. I mean, you have this situation now where we don't know when the NBA is coming back. And probably, I'd say at the earliest it comes back in May. Probably straight into playoffs. I assume so. Or like,
no.
You don't think so?
No, it's unlikely. It doesn't make sense to start playoffs. Like, everyone's going to be rusty. It won't even be fun to watch. And then LeBron's going to lose in the first round, and then everyone's going to blame it on the break. And that's
Bro, LeBron ain't losing in the first round. But I will say, so maybe if it gets too late, KD and Kyrie, there's like a theory that KD and Kyrie might come back to the Nets.
Yeah. No, I even heard if it gets really late, the draft picks could play.
Yo, James Wiseman.
Yeah. LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy. But
that's more unlikely. Yeah, there's no way KD and Kyrie.
Bro, if KD and Kyrie come back. So to give you some context, viewers.
Wait, doesn't KD have COVID?
Yeah, but dude, it's not like
he'll probably
he'll be fine. It's not like KD is pretty healthy. But it's not like the moment you get COVID, you can't play the basketball anymore, my guy. I'm pretty sure Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell have healed too.
They're
cleared now. But anyway, but like, there's a thing. So to give my viewers some context, right now the Raptors are second seed and Brooklyn's the seventh seed, because Kyrie and Katie are both injured.
Oh,
But if we
dude,
go straight to playoffs,
Raps are
if we go
done.
straight to playoffs, Raptors will be facing up with the Nets in the first round, and Katie and Kyrie might be healthy enough by the time that comes. So, yeah, it wouldn't be a fun first round series. Let's just say that. But aside from that, it's just interesting, man. Like, all this lost revenue that's happened with the NBA and all these sports league, I think it's gonna make a big impact on these teams because A, the salary cap is going to go down like crazy, and B, I don't know if people are going to pack arenas as much as they did right now for a while, because I think that fear will always remain for a bit.
They will. No, they will. Like starting next season.
You think the ticket prices are going to be as high?
They'll be higher.
Really?
Yeah, I think fans will miss the game. I think ticket prices will go up.
Because
I don't think they'll go up high enough to like match like all the money that the league is
they
losing.
can't. Yeah, they can't make up for that.
Yeah, but like I think next season's gonna be crazy because I've already seen all these posts where it's like, man, if I can, next time I get to go outside, I'll like this summer's about to be lit if Corona's gone.
Yeah,
stuff
big
like
if,
that.
man.
Right? So it's like, yeah, right, exactly. But I think there will be more appreciation. Once hopefully everything is back to normal.
That's the thing, though. Like, but it's interesting you said it right there. Like, the fans will be missing the game, but I think one of the reasons ticket prices went so high in general is because a lot of the suits, and suits are what you call business people who have no interest in the game, but they just got free tickets to the game. A lot of suits were taking over the tickets, so I don't know if they're going to be as willing to go see games for a bit if they don't have to. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the sports world is definitely really rock. Nothing like this ever happened in the past in any of these leagues, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Like, games don't get canceled for like
anything.
anything.
And in 1 year, especially the NBA, like we had Kobe. We had David Stern.
Yeah, when Kobe passed away, and they postponed like a Lakers Clippers game.
That's a big deal.
I read that where like them postponing that. The last time a game was postponed before that was like when, was it? I don't want to misquote, but some American president got assassinated.
Like JFK or something?
Yeah. When he got assassinated, they postponed a game. Or multiple games or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, this never happens.
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy year, man. 2020 has been pretty insane for everybody, like the sports world, people in the tech industry, hell, university kids, which, like,
Yeah, I feel bad for university. I've been talking to some of my friends after coming back and trying to do online.
Man,
school.
like even you're so Vaibhav's going back to school this summer, and it's all fully online. Waterloo's fully online, so it's going to be a big adjustment period.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to go
to Waterloo
and live in Waterloo, right? Like, I don't know if there's a point. I might for a little bit because I'm still like renting a place there and whatnot. But it'll be interesting to see how well course material is communicated. I guess that's what I'm most worried about, more so. And then I'm also starting third year, which is like the known like difficult year for mechanical. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a crazy. 2020 is gonna be a year to remember, for better or for worse. But regardless, thanks for coming on, man. It was a good podcast. Everybody, I hope you're at home, staying safe, enjoying the podcast. Content is coming out soon. And any closing remarks, man?
No, nothing much. It's kind of just what you said. Stay indoors, stay safe.
Stay safe.
And thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Play some video games. I know Vaibhav just got Uncharted because I told him to get Uncharted. So
it's kind of embarrassing. It's an old game, but I like just started.
Hey man, you have so much time. You might as well play like every game.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, stay tuned for some more episodes, and I hope you enjoyed. we'll see you soon. Take care.